Good afternoon. As Goldie mentioned, my name is Vikram Phatak. I'm the CEO of NSS Labs. A little bit about us. We test the world's security products. Our mission is to advance transparency and accountability within the cybersecurity industry. With me, I have Kevin and John. I think these other slides up there. Do you want to take a minute to tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin Cox. I am the Continuous Diagnostics and Mitigation Program Manager for the overall program in the federal government, protecting the .gov. We also are working closely with the Einstein program as we move forward both with CDM as well as with Einstein in terms of the direction and alignment of those two programs. So I'll be talking both about Einstein today as well as where that aligns and how we support the NCCIC going forward.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Felker. I'm the director of the NCCIC, as they said. We are the federal government's information sharing hub for cybersecurity purposes. If you think about it, we have three major muscle movers in our organization: information sharing, analysis, and incident management across the spectrum. And so a lot of the work that Kevin and his group are doing with CDM and with Einstein, we're the users of that information that's produced by those systems.
Great, thank you. So Kevin, can you start by giving us the current state of affairs with regards to Einstein Accelerated 3, or Einstein 3 Accelerated, I should say, right? And CDM and what's happening there?
Sure. So from an Einstein perspective, Einstein 1 and 2 are still in production, supporting the agencies, and with Einstein 3A, Einstein 3 Accelerated, that is in place, working closely with industry. We take those feeds both from an IDS and IPS standpoint, apply analytics, and with that information, we also work to get that information shared out to not only the .gov space, but also our partnerships with the DoD and private industry as well. What we're looking at from an Einstein perspective as well as with CDM is the direction going forward with the executive order in the IT modernization effort out of OMB and DHS and how we structure the .gov architecture going forward. And that will really help shape direction for Einstein, but also with CDM, which we're in the process of moving into phase 3, which starts to get into boundary protection, event management, and really complementing what's in place today with Einstein, and then working to get the visibility up through the dashboards to the NCCIC to give them better situational awareness out in the agencies, as well as being able to allow the NCCIC to help support the agencies in response.
So John, how are you seeing E3A's impact into the NCCIC's mission?
So the E3A impact is fairly substantial. It's in place. It's doing what it's advertised to do. Could it be better? Absolutely. But the Einstein 3A will block and will alert departments and agencies at the same time it alerts one of our analysts. And the idea is to have a conversation with a couple of humans to talk about what are we seeing and what are we doing about it. And as Kevin said, information that's developed based upon what we see in that system not only helps that department and agency do a better job of defending their networks, but we can turn that into information, as the previous speaker said, that is shared more broadly and then is useful for cyber defenders in more than just the federal government.
Okay, thank you. So, Kevin, the Einstein and CDM are in phase 3. So what do they have in common, and where, in terms of protecting sensitive data? Let me back up actually for a second. So how's encryption affecting what you guys are doing?
So one of the things today, we're getting visibility on the network and seeing the traffic that's there. With encryption, you either need to be able to get some type of inspection of that, some decryption capability, and then re-encryption. We're not doing that today, but that's one of the things that we're looking at going forward with both Einstein's roadmap as well as with CDM is how do we respond to that traffic? How do we get visibility on that traffic? It really, I think, is bringing a series of different capabilities, not only getting a sensor out on the network, but getting sensors inside down to the endpoint level and being able to look at event data from the endpoint once it's been decrypted and being able to respond in that way. So it's really, again, working to get a broad set of information, a broad visibility across the network, into the network. So CDM's really been focused on the on-prem network, getting visibility on the agency networks from a cyber perspective, getting visibility down to the endpoints, and then feeding that information up to a dashboard, getting that over to the NCCIC to help track, as the prior speaker talked about, the cyber hygiene of the agencies. And then as we move into phase 3 and getting more aligned with Einstein, getting that visibility out on the boundary, out on the network, again, getting that intelligence and allowing that information sharing through the NCCIC to go forward. And regardless of whether the traffic is encrypted or not, that we have, at the federal level, have visibility and situational awareness of what is occurring at any point in time.
What are your thoughts, John?
So from a cyber defender's perspective, from an analyst perspective, encryption makes things really hard, particularly if you only have access to seeing traffic at a perimeter. You can see traffic and you can try to stop it, but if you stop something that you shouldn't stop, that's bad. And if you don't stop something that you should stop, that's bad too. So the bad guys aren't stupid. They figured out that they can move malware in encrypted traffic, and that's going to become more and more of a challenge for us, I think.
I mean, I think we were talking before this panel that we've seen the increase of malware and exploits over encrypted channels really explode, and it's due to a lot of the free encryption everywhere, which I'm a fan of encryption, but the way they did it, they broke type 2, type 3 encryption. So it used to be that if you had a web server and you wanted to have encryption, you had to go to the authorities and prove that you were who you said you were before you could actually get a certificate issued and encrypt in a trusted manner with clients. That's no longer true. So anybody can set up a website, and 30 minutes later they've got an encryption certificate that's trusted if you pay the money to the appropriate people. And so as you can imagine, where I'm going with this is, how do we think about, it sounds like handling is going to be a challenge, right? I mean, is it more CPU, more endpoint, more, have you thought about where this is going?
I'll start and I'll turn it over to you. So I think, again, going back to the point that we need visibility at multiple places on the network and down at the endpoint. And we can't just rely on a sensor like the Einstein systems sitting out at the boundary or the perimeter of an agency network. That's one source of information. We also need to get visibility in regards to what's happening down on an individual endpoint and some sense of some type of sensor grid to detect any type of lateral movement in the network. Where once the user or the malicious users in the network, if they try to move to a different box, if they encrypt, that might set off a signal that, hey, we need to look at that. Or if it's not encrypted, we'll have visibility in and being able to get responders down there and investigate and, as appropriate, shut it down. So I think it's going forward no longer a case of just having one technology at one point in the network to solve this problem. It's really about getting holistic visibility across the network and getting different points on any type of traffic and being able to respond.
Yeah, I think that's really important, Kevin. The multiple points where cyber defenders can impact what's going on, have visibility on what's going on. Just think about the case you just described. When traffic crosses a perimeter boundary and it's encrypted and it's got malware in it, if it's unencrypted at some point within the system, being able to identify that, tie it back to that boundary crossing, then the analyst can go back and look further to see where it's coming from and understand all the other attributes of the malware and stuff like that, match it up with what we know already in a vast body of knowledge. But I think it's going to be important that we have that access in both places. One of the challenges that we've had with CDM, and we were talking about this earlier, is that we would like to see object-level data in departments and agencies in the federal government. And not because we want to put anybody on report, but because we want to help them be better cyber defenders. We have a vast plethora of data, and our analysts are focused on understanding what's happening in a network, what's happening in general in the world, and tie that together and provide that to the SOC analyst at name your department, so they can do a better job of defending their network in conjunction with some of the information that they're seeing from CDM broadly.
So that gets to sort of a following question in terms of, since Einstein and CDM are effectively tools, they're deployed by the different agencies, how are you assessing the effectiveness of what they're doing, of the deployments and how people are actually implementing those technologies?
So we have a team of project managers that work closely with the system integrators, work with all of the agencies to track the deployments now. FY18 is a key year for us in terms of getting that initial set of capabilities out there with phase 1, the hardware asset management, software asset management, vulnerability management, and configuration security management. And then from there, we feed the data up to an integration layer that normalizes, standardizes that data, feeds it into an agency dashboard at the object level that John is talking about, giving the agencies the ability to detect and respond and report on different activity. And then we summarize it up to the federal level. As we move forward with CDM, we'll get that visibility through the dashboard, but we'll also continue to have those relationships with the agencies, with the integrators through our new CDM Defend task orders, and continuing to bring on additional capabilities, both to help with incident reporting, getting better visibility for the in-kick, but also getting visibility out into the cloud, in the mobile area space, just to really, again, moving towards this more holistic view of wherever there is federal data stored or in use, that we know how it's protected, how it's being used, and that the in-kick is able to get responders in case there's some type of event or incident to help address that and work with the agencies on that.
Yeah, and I think having a second set of eyes on a set of data that's backed up by the intelligence community, the law enforcement community, and the other sources of information that we have helps those cyber defenders on a daily basis to understand what they're looking at and what they can do about it. Cyber defenders are pretty good in the departments and agencies. But the more you can help them be better, the more you can help them raise their game by providing that background and that information and what we know that they may not know, particularly what we can take at a classified level, get declassified for use, the better they become at defending the networks of their department.
So, which gets to sort of in terms of that feedback mechanism for the technology and what you guys are working on. I mean, do you have a message for folks? You want to talk about that a little bit?
From my perspective, I would like to hear more feedback from how Einstein is doing, and I suspect eventually from how CDM is doing from a cyber defender's perspective. I think Kevin cares much about it with respect to the overall program and how it's working. Right now, our feedback is somewhat limited from Einstein. We do get, pluses and minuses all the time, but we're always looking for more feedback and help us make it better.
Agreed on that. And then the other key here is right now we've got a lot of basic capabilities we're getting out there. What we want to do is really get in front of the threat in the nation-state adversary and criminal adversary. So really working with industry, understanding where technology is going, whether it be with AI, machine learning, et cetera, so that we're bringing the latest technology to this problem for all the .gov space and getting the in-kick the best visibility and the best tools that they can use to help the federal agencies secure our data and make sure that we're as effective as possible.
Great, well, thank you. It looks like I see the big red dot flashing, so I think we're out of time. So thank you for your time, and hopefully this has been a valuable session.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.